Career conversations don't need to be long, but they do need to be right. In this episode, I'm joined by Catherine Hsieh, a learning specialist at Flutter International and a career equation qualified coach. We'll be exploring why the best career conversations are often shorter than you think, how Catherine's definition of success completely changed over time, and how one bad conversation with a manager became a turning point in how she now supports talent to define and explore their own career opportunities. We unpack how a simple framework, the career equation, helps managers to quickly understand aspirations, shape meaningful career paths, and have confident conversations that drive retention, engagement, and succession without awkwardness or overwhelm. So if you care about keeping great people, then this one is one to listen to. Welcome to the Career Equation, a practical formula for career conversations that helps businesses and their leaders to engage, retain, and grow their talent.
Hosted by Erica Sosner, Career Equation creator, and Zoe Schofield, careers expert and equation enthusiast.
Hi, Catherine. I'm absolutely delighted that you're joining us today. Welcome to the Career Equation podcast.
Thank you, Zoe. I'm so excited to be here today.
Oh, well, I'm really delighted that you've joined us. And we're super excited on the pod because we're kind of relaunching it a little bit in terms of conversations for 2026. And what we really want to do is explore with companies and people within companies, like, how are you approaching career conversations and what's working for you in the organization? What are you trying and how is that going? But also diving into the real good, the bad, and the ugly of career conversations. So I'm delighted that you're one of our first guests on this new shape pod. So thank you. I would love to hear, and I know our audience would as well, a little bit about how career conversations and those sort of chats are really managed at Flutter International in terms of the landscape, the rhythms, the flows of how they happen and the whys. Tell us a little bit about how that works.
Yeah, so at Flutter, career and career dialogues are supported through a mix of different resources. So when I started, which is about 3 years ago, we didn't really have a structured approach to it. It was more ad hoc. So if someone needed some help, they'll come to us and we'll give some advice. Since then, we've created almost like a 3-pillar capability approach. And the main pillar that I look after is career resources. So what that means is we are creating resources for both our colleagues as well as our managers to help them with career conversations. So for managers, it's how to have an impactful career conversation. And then for colleagues, it's what are the tools that I need to career plan my career. And then underlying all of that is the ownership of your career. So that's a very different shift in mindset that wasn't there before. The verbal feedback that we get from all of the events and initiatives that we've done. So that's always really nice to hear. But of course, we always have to back that up with data. And we are seeing that needle move higher than it was before. We use an NPS system, so that has increased. And we have kind of anonymous surveys that go out every quarter to our staff. And there is a specific question that asks about career growth. And we've seen that increase as well.
What are the managers saying about the resources and support that they're getting around having better conversations? Is that moving as well?
I mean, the number one feedback I think that I hear time and time again is time. Where do I find the time to have a career conversation? You know, they don't have to be lengthy. They don't have to be an hour long, in-depth, like pour your heart out type of conversation. They can just be quick check-ins to just see how your employee's doing, how their career goals are going. So we're trying to also make it seem less scary for managers. It's actually really interesting to hear what are the different problems they're going through. And then me, having gone through my Career Matters and the certification, I can now answer those and help them and navigate through some of those really difficult conversations.
And what about for yourself personally? You know, you've now equipped yourself with the career equation tools by taking the accreditation as part of your own journey. But I know when I learned them, it made a massive impact on my own career in terms of, well, what does success mean to me? So I'm curious to know, like, what does career success look and feel like for you now?
Yeah, the definition of career success for myself has evolved a lot. I see my career life in different phases. So the first phase of my life, I measured my success through achievements, and I think that's quite, and this is generally speaking, but when you're in your 20s, you're thinking about your reputation, your status, your power, that climbing that ladder, and where can I go? How high can I go? And I moved into my 30s, and especially COVID. I think COVID played a huge part in shifting my perspective. I had a newborn at the time as well. So in this stage of my life, I think the career ladder still kind of lingers in the back, but definitely not as much. I think my definition of success for me, it's more about balance, fulfillment, learning. But the career equation, I think the environment, that piece of the equation really helped me look at my success as a whole, because it shifted so much going from face to face to remote to now hybrid. And the environment is something that I don't think a lot of people think about as much. And I need to shout out to you, Zoe, because when we were doing the certification, you did this great design of a flower pot and the environment being the soil. And that has forever stayed in my mind.
Oh, oh, that's so lovely to hear, because it's how my brain works in visualization. So when someone else kind of gets that, but you're absolutely right. I mean, there's so much richness in there for people to take away from that about, our definition of success. It does change over time, doesn't it? Like what we wanted in our 20s in terms of what seemed to be the beacons of things we were chasing is very different to what we decide in our 30s and our 40s and our 50s and beyond. And COVID definitely, I think, had a big part to play in a lot of people's shifts towards what does actually really matter to me. I feel like I'm chasing this beautiful, it's like looking at a beautiful gatto or something in a shop window and thinking, I want that. And then you taste it, you're like, well, that wasn't quite what it looked like. It's like chasing things that aren't really what we really want underneath. So I think you're right. The more work we can do on what really matters to us and the sort of soil, if you like to think of that environment that helps us to be at our best, then the decisions we make going forward can only be better decisions. And I'm curious then to dive into this idea of career conversations. And we promised ourselves, Erica and I, that we were going to ask people about the good, the bad, and the ugly of career conversations and get you to transport us in time to a time initially, like to tell me about a time when you were in a conversation, a career conversation, whether that's you holding it or on the receiving end, where it was awful. Where you thought, this is not going how I imagined. Like, take us back there.
There's one standout conversation for me. And looking back to it, I shudder and think, I can't believe I did that. I mean, I must applaud my confidence, but the way that I went about doing it was just all wrong. So I was in my 20s, early 20s, and working for an international company abroad in Asia. And, I don't think it was 100% my fault, but we had performance reviews, as you normally do, but not really a structure to it. So we had to rate ourselves, and it was just some general questions that we had to answer. And at that time, I felt like I deserved a promotion. And this was because I had taken over a role that previously a manager had. They, left, and I was doing their job essentially for a good 6 months. And they were a manager before. So I thought, I'm doing the work of a manager, but I'm not getting the title or the pay for this. So I, went into this performance review and I prepared some talking points, but when the conversation started, I froze and I just didn't whatever I had written down just did not come out of my mouth. And I think it was because this manager that I was talking to, I didn't see on the regular. So he was always in and out. We didn't have a lot of career conversations. So this was almost the first time in 6 months that I had met him, sat down and had, this type of conversation. And I just could not articulate clearly why I wanted the promotion other than I think it's only fair because of the workload. So the discussion didn't go as planned. And in frustration, I can't believe I did this, but I changed my title temporarily in my signature to reflect the role that I wanted. And it did cause a little bit of tension within the team and a little bit of confusion as well. But I was doing it because I was giving so many trainings at the time and I wanted to be noticed. I wanted them to see me seriously. And so when that happened, obviously the manager pulled me aside and was like, "What are you doing? Can't do this." And I remember that day just going into the bathroom and just shedding some tears. Like, I can't believe that's happened. I ruined all my chances for this promotion. What am I going to do? So then I decided, you know what? I will focus on building my expertise. I will pursue a professional certification, which I did. And that ultimately gave me the kind of leg up that I wanted in a more constructive and impactful, meaningful way. So then I kind of proved myself with that. And the next time the conversation came up, I had more points against why I wanted a promotion or I wanted to be seen more as a senior than just a junior doing the role. But yeah, I definitely went into it and with emotion, which I think I shouldn't have. And that got the better of me.
And I suppose it's like at that stage, it's lack of experience of having them kind of conversations, isn't it? And also the relationship that you have with somebody and whether it's there in the beginning to feel like you can open up and have a good dialogue with someone about what you feel and what you would like. So, you're in your 20s, so we can give you some credit for being young and naive at that point. But I kind of like wondering when the conversation ended, like, I'm curious to like how you felt at that point and perhaps what you imagined the manager was feeling.
I definitely felt like I failed. I failed that conversation. I failed the goal of what I wanted and a little bit embarrassed as well. But what caused me to change that title, I think, was a little bit of anger because it didn't go the way that I'd planned. And I still did believe deep down that I deserved something. I deserved something. If not a promotion, I deserved some sort of acknowledgement that I've been doing the work of a manager, but wasn't getting any recognition for it. As I mentioned, in that phase of my life, that's, what you're seeking is recognition and achievements. So the manager, I think, it's hard to say. I mean, I wish I knew him well enough to be more open. And I think maybe that was one of the reasons why it was such a tricky conversation, is because we hadn't communicated that much beforehand. And I see now, and I bring this to Flutter, and I stress this with career conversations, that it shouldn't be a one-off, that it should be something more reoccurring, happening every month or 2 weeks or, whatever the cadence. But it really does help when it comes time to the big reviews, the mid-year reviews, the performance reviews. It makes those conversations so much easier. So that would be a learning from that, is to have a more open communication line. And I did take it on myself after I went through that certification to just shoot this person an email and say, "Hey, I completed it. I've also done this, this, and this." I gave more evidence of why.
And did your relationship with everybody recover? The manager and the people in the team that thought, "Who does she think she is?"
Yeah, it did. It did. Yeah, it was brought up once, and I think we all just kind of laughed about it. And I was the only one really doing that role. So yeah, water under the bridge. But definitely, at the beginning I said I was shocked about my confidence and just changing it. I probably wasn't even thinking that hard about it. I was just like, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to do. And then maybe no one's going to notice.
And I suppose ultimately you sounds like you grew from the experience because you had that initial reaction of, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to change my title. But ultimately you said you thought, how am I going to get there then? So I'm going to take a certification. I'm going to get the evidence together. I'm going to feel then more prepared, I guess, with evidence of stuff going forward. And you're right, at that stage in our life, so often it's actually recognition for what we're putting in that we're really craving. It's not always the badge or the symbol or the title. It's like the feeling valued and recognized about the work we're doing. So it sounds like you got there in the end.
I did. I did. I've learned a lot from that. And I'd like to think that my career conversations have gone a lot smoother since that experience.
Well, let's find out if they have and transport us to another conversation. And if we had the reverse, then, if you can think of a time when you thought, oh my gosh, that was such a great conversation. I enjoyed it. I got so much from it. Like, where does that kind of memory transport you to?
Yeah. So much later in my career, I learned from that experience that I needed evidence. I needed some sort of show of my achievements without it sounding like bragging. And the reason I say that is during my time with Flutter, during my time of trying to figure out my career success, I really wanted to, and I think from that certification, I really wanted to make sure that whatever I say, I can back it up with evidence. And so I had a real taste for learning. I got made redundant in 2022. And with the time that I had, I just started absorbing as much as I could. So during courses and certifications, and then one of them was called I Am Remarkable. So I'm an I Am Remarkable facilitator. And the premise of I Am Remarkable is breaking down those social barriers and perception and being proud of our achievements and being able to say them out loud at work and beyond. And one of the main learnings from that is it's not bragging if it's based on facts. And that has always stuck with me. And so what I started creating for myself is a resume of achievements. So wherever I go, for Flutter, I have a Flutter resume. So I'll basically put down a running list of all the projects, the wins, the ad hocs, everything that I've done. And so by the time I get to my mid-year performance review, I have a list of things that I've done because we can never expect people to know what we're doing all the time. And certainly I think for managers, they're only human. They can't remember every little thing that we've done. So having that list made such a difference. So this goes back to that career conversation I had. It was during a performance review and I had my resume up and it made such a difference. It gave me something concrete to talk about and it clearly showed the impact of my work. And I went into that conversation feeling so much more confident. And one of them led to an unexpected promotion. And I actually turned it down because at the time, it wasn't the right fit for the next move that I wanted. But it really surprised me. It's just the power of preparation, keeping track of progress, and making sure that I just had everything ready to go. And always remembering that it's not bragging if it is based on facts. And I think what makes it hard sometimes, especially as women, is being able to talk about our achievements in a very confident way. And my bad conversation taught me that. But also having a lot of people supporting me and practicing beforehand as well made that successful conversation that much better.
There's a nice tip for everybody there actually listening, that actually keeping a kind of running sheet of ad hoc things you might have achieved, what's gone great this week, what do I want to commit to memory? Because sometimes when we put ourselves in a position of a promotion or a new job, you do sort of think, oh gosh, I can't think of anything that I've done or achieved. So, and then we try and expect ourselves to pull all this from reserves from nowhere. So I love that. It's a great tip for people out there to sort of keep a little list of stuff going on, because it's empowering for yourself as well, isn't it? To look at that and think, hey, yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm making a difference. But I think what I love about that conversation is you said then that a promotion opportunity came out of one of those conversations, but you didn't take it because it wasn't right for you. And I kind of get a real sense there then that there is something in that, knowing ourselves, to know that you don't have to take every single opportunity that lands in front of you that's promotion if it's not the right thing. And did that conversation that you had at that point, did that help you to discover that? Like, how did you arrive at it's not for me through that conversation?
Yes, definitely. By turning down that promotion, another opportunity came up. And I did back it up and say why I didn't want to go for the promotion. So that was a really good space for me to talk to my manager and say, this is actually not my passion. I'm not interested in, and at the time I was a recruiter, and it was very numbers based, commission based. And this is where that kind of burnout came from. But I've been doing it for so long and I knew it wasn't healthy for me. And so when the position of management came up, I knew that wasn't what I wanted. And so when I turned it down, I said instead what I was passionate about, which is helping people. I love the conversations that I had being a recruiter and finding out people's stories and trying to find, hey, where can we put you in the company? That was what I was interested in. So what ended up being a no to that, the manager now knew what my passions were. And when the position for a trainer came up instead, they recommended me for it. And I went down that path instead. And I think there is, for all managers, I'd like to believe that they have the best intentions for all their employees and they want the best for them. And if they can see that happen and make something successful happen for someone, it gives them so much joy. And I could see that in my manager's face when that happened, and said, you know what? Something came up. I think you'll be really good at it. I put your name forth for it. What do you think? And I was like, yes, this is what I wanted. And I was so grateful for them. And I will forever be to this manager.
Yeah, I got the energy from you there, just hearing it. It was like such a joyous conversation. And what made it so meaningful to you, that conversation?
That he listened, that manager listened to my passions and understood that I was unhappy where I was, but I didn't want to leave the company. I just wanted to find another opportunity. So I think for them, it was just seeing their joy made me happy. And it was still within the wider part of the team. So it was still under the talent team. So I still saw the same manager. We still, had lunch together and we had great conversations. And again, I think it goes back to communication, just how important it is to make your passions and your skills known so that people around you who are supportive and want to help you can.
And so it sounds, I was going to ask you, but you've already kind of told us anyway in your answers about how your knowledge of the career equation, this idea of a thriving career coming from a place where you're utilizing the skills and strengths that you possess, that you love using, that you're, applying them to something that you care deeply about, that you're passionate about, that you're seeing a difference by impacting your work. And it's wrapped in an environment that helps you to be at your best. And it's, I'm hearing that through the threads of what you've been describing about this time and a place to feel heard.
Exactly. And I think the equation really wraps it up nicely. And I see it now. I use it a lot within Flutter. And it's quite interesting using aspects of the equation to also see where people are in their career. I've worked with people who are very early in their careers, so they have the skills, but the passion is what they're kind of searching for. And then I've spoken to people who are late in their career who, they have so many aspects of the equation already set, but I think the impact is what they're looking for. So just through asking a few questions, I can almost figure out, okay, which part of the equation should we look at? And I think that's really special about the equation is that you don't need to start from one spot. You can kind of dissect it and work with any of the four.
Absolutely. And it's timeless. It doesn't matter whether you're using it to help somebody who's 16, 17, 18 figure out, like, what am I going to do next? Or whether it's someone who's 70 thinking, like, what do I want my Twilight chapters to be full of? It's timeless. And you're right. It's a lens by which to look through, I suppose. That's I often say about putting my career equation goggles on, because you start to see things a lot more simply just by the fact that it's a simple model, I suppose. So it's nice to hear that it's a tool that you are trained in, but that you're getting to use day in, day out in your work, and that Flutter is getting the benefit of that as well as an organization to have brought it in. So thank you for sharing those bits. And I suppose that kind of would be nice to end on a bit of reflection of thinking back to that early 20s, not so great career conversation that you had, that given what you know now and how equipped you feel and how much more you know yourself, how would you approach that differently? What advice would you give to younger Catherine to say, perhaps don't go in like that?
I definitely prepare more strategically than how I did it before. As I mentioned, I think I went into it with a lot of emotion, and that is something that I don't really do now. I focus on the facts, I focus on the work, and also treating it more as a ongoing dialogue rather than a one-off. So with whatever manager that I have now and new managers, I always make it very clear that I want open communication. I want one-on-ones every 2 weeks for my regular BAU, but I also really want career conversations because you just learn so much from every manager and what they can give, how they can help you. And a lot of my previous managers have now become some amazing mentors for me and friends as well. There's one manager specifically that I'll go to if I have kind of career conundrums, or I don't know if this role is best for me, but they know so much of my skills and my passion that I can just speak to them freely, not like a manager, but just almost like a friend. So yeah, I would say those two things is that open communication, being more strategic and preparing ahead of time.
Sounds like perfect wisdom to me. And how wonderful as well that you have some relationships within the organization where you've built that rapport where you can openly speak about how you're feeling and you can dissect sort of conundrums and work it out in dialogue with somebody. That's what we wish for loads of people out there in an environment, to have organizations that really push those boundaries of the old style of just a performance review once a year or and a tick box exercise. So I'm delighted. And I really, really am grateful for you to being my first little guest in this new structure of the podcast. And I hope that you enjoyed the conversation.
I did. Thank you so much for having me again. This has been lovely. It's nice to reflect back on my career, and I'm sure if we had these questions again in 10 years, they're probably going to change again. Who knows what kind of phase I'll be in my in my life. But thank you so much for hearing me and hearing my stories.
You are welcome. And good luck on your next chapter and the journey ahead of you with the new baby on the way and also your work at Flutter International. So thank you. And let's keep in touch.
Thanks so much.
For more information about the Career Equation and how it can benefit your organisation, visit the website at thecareerequation.com or connect with Zoe Schofield or Erica Sosner on LinkedIn.